The National Electrical Code defines the service entrance as the point where electrical power enters a building. The service entrance must be located at the first point of entry of the electrical supply conductors into the building. The service entrance includes the service equipment, which consists of the service disconnect and the overcurrent protection devices. A feeder, on the other hand, is a circuit that carries electrical power from the service equipment to a distribution panel board or other points of use within the building. Feeders do not need to be located at the first point of entry of the electrical supply conductors into the building. It's crucial to understand the distinction between these two components in an electrical system. The service entrance is where the utility's power connects to the building's electrical system. This connection typically involves a service drop or underground service lateral that terminates at the service equipment. The service equipment includes a main disconnect switch or circuit breaker that allows the entire building's electrical system to be energized. It also includes overcurrent protection devices, such as fuses or circuit breakers, that protect the system from overloads and short circuits. The location of the service entrance is usually dictated by the utility company and local electrical codes. It's often placed in an accessible location near the exterior of the building. Once the service entrance is established, feeders are used to distribute power from the service equipment to various locations within the building. Feeders are typically larger conductors than branch circuits because they carry a significant amount of current. They are run from the service equipment to distribution panel boards, which are essentially smaller versions of the service equipment. These distribution panel boards then supply power to branch circuits, which in turn feed individual loads such as lights, receptacles, and appliances. Because feeders are not part of the initial service connection, they can be run beyond the point of entry. This flexibility allows for greater design freedom and allows you to locate distribution panel boards where they are most convenient and efficient. The NEC provides detailed requirements for the installation of feeders, including conductor sizing, overcurrent protection, and grounding. These requirements are designed to ensure the safe and reliable distribution of electrical power throughout the building. The size of the feeder conductors must be adequate to carry the anticipated load. This is determined by calculating the total current that the feeder will be supplying and then selecting conductors that have an ampacity equal to or greater than that current. The ampacity of a conductor is its current carrying capacity, which is determined by its size, material, and insulation type. The NEC provides tables that list the ampacity of various conductors under different conditions. Feeders must also be protected by overcurrent protection devices, such as fuses or circuit breakers. These devices are designed to interrupt the flow of current if it exceeds a safe level, preventing damage to the conductors and equipment. The size of the overcurrent protection device must be coordinated with the ampacity of the feeder conductors. The NEC provides rules for determining the appropriate size of overcurrent protection devices for different types of feeders. Grounding is another important aspect of feeder installation. Feeders must be grounded to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. This helps to protect against electric shock and minimize the risk of fire. The grounding system must be properly installed and maintained to ensure its effectiveness. In summary, the NEC distinguishes between service entrances and feeders. Service entrances are the point where electrical power enters a building and must be located at the first point of entry. Feeders are circuits that distribute power from the service equipment to various locations within the building and can be run beyond the point of entry. Feeders must be properly sized, protected, and grounded to ensure the safe and reliable distribution of electrical power. Always consult the NEC and local electrical codes for specific requirements and consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector if you have any questions or concerns. Here are some additional considerations for feeder installations. Firstly, voltage drop. Voltage drop is the reduction in voltage that occurs as electrical current flows through a conductor. Excessive voltage drop can cause problems with equipment performance, such as reduced light output or motor overheating. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop in feeders to no more than 3%. To minimize voltage drop, you can use larger conductors or shorten the length of the feeder. Secondly, conduit and cable supports. Feeders must be installed in conduit or cable trays to protect them from physical damage. The type of conduit or cable tray used must be suitable for the environment in which it is installed. Feeders must also be properly supported to prevent them from sagging or pulling on connections. The NEC provides requirements for the spacing of conduit and cable supports. Thirdly, labeling. Feeders must be clearly labeled to identify their purpose and the loads they serve. This helps to prevent confusion and makes it easier to troubleshoot problems. The label should be durable and easy to read. Fourthly, accessibility. Feeders and their associated components, such as distribution panel boards and overcurrent protection devices, must be accessible for maintenance and repairs. The NEC requires that sufficient working space be provided around electrical equipment. Fifthly, coordination with other trades. Heater installations must be coordinated with other trades, such as plumbers and HVAC contractors, to avoid conflict. This is particularly important in crowded electrical rooms or above ceilings. Sixthly, documentation. It is important to document the feeder installation, including the size and type of conductors, the location of distribution panel boards, and the settings of overcurrent protection devices. This documentation can be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. Remember that electrical codes and regulations can vary depending on the jurisdiction. It is essential to consult with your local electrical inspector to ensure that your feeder installation complies with all applicable requirements. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to perform these tasks. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, do not attempt to install or modify feeders yourself. Incorrect wiring or improper installation can lead to electric shock, fire, or other hazards. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience to perform electrical work safely and correctly. They can also ensure that your installation complies with all applicable codes and regulations. By following these guidelines and consulting with qualified professionals, you can ensure that your feeder installations are safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. It's also worth noting some common mistakes to avoid during feeder installations. 1. Undersized conductors. Using conductors that are too small for the intended load can cause overheating and potentially lead to a fire. Always calculate the load accurately and select conductors with sufficient ampacity. 2. Improper overcurrent protection. Installing overcurrent protection devices that are too large or too small can compromise the safety of the electrical system. Use the correct size of fuses or circuit breakers based on the ampacity of the conductors. 3. Inadequate grounding. A poorly grounded feeder system can increase the risk of electric shock and damage to equipment. Ensure that the grounding system is properly installed and connected. 4. Loose connections. Loose connections can cause overheating, arcing, and potentially lead to a fire. Tighten all connections securely and periodically inspect them for looseness. 5. Failure to label. Not labeling feeders can make it difficult to identify and troubleshoot problems in the future. Clearly label all feeders with their purpose and the loads they serve. 6. Neglecting voltage drop. Ignoring voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or operate inefficiently. Calculate voltage drop and use larger conductors or shorten the feeder length as needed. 7. Improper conduit or cable support. Inadequate support can cause conductors to sag, pull on connections, and potentially damage the installation. Use appropriate conduit or cable supports and space them according to code requirements. 8. Ignoring local codes. Failing to comply with local electrical codes can result in costly rework and potential safety hazards. Always consult with your local electrical inspector and follow their guidance. 9. Working live. Working on live electrical circuits is extremely dangerous and can be fatal. Always de-energize the circuit before working on feeders or any other electrical equipment. 10. Lack of proper training. Attempting to install or modify feeders without proper training and experience can be hazardous. Hire a qualified electrician or seek professional training before undertaking electrical work. By avoiding these common mistakes, you can help ensure that your feeder installations are safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Remember that electricity is a powerful force, and it should be treated with respect. Always take the necessary precautions and consult with qualified professionals when working with electrical systems. Finally, let's consider some advanced topics related to feeder installations. Firstly, harmonic currents. Harmonic currents are non-sinusoidal currents that can be generated by certain types of electronic equipment. These currents can cause overheating and other problems in electrical systems. If you are dealing with harmonic currents, you may need to use special filters or oversized conductors. Secondly, power factor correction. Power factor is a measure of how efficiently electrical power is being used. A low power factor can result in increased energy costs and reduced system capacity. Power factor correction can be achieved by installing capacitors or other power factor correction equipment. Thirdly, surge protection. Surge protection devices (SPD) can protect electrical equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning or other event. SPD should be installed at the service entrance and at distribution panel boards to provide comprehensive surge protection. Fourthly, energy efficiency. When installing feeders, consider using energy-efficient conductors and equipment. This can help to reduce energy consumption and lower your electricity bills. Fifthly, future expansion. When designing feeder systems, consider the potential for future expansion. It may be wise to install larger conductors or conduit than are currently needed to accommodate future loads. Sixthly, documentation. Maintain accurate and up-to-date documentation of all feeder installations, including conductor sizes, overcurrent protection device ratings, and grounding system details. This documentation will be invaluable for future maintenance, troubleshooting, and modifications. By considering these advanced topics, you can design and install feeder systems that are not only safe and reliable but also efficient, expandable, and adaptable to changing needs. Remember that the electrical industry is constantly evolving, and it is important to stay up to date on the latest technologies and best practices. Continuously educate yourself and seek guidance from qualified professionals to ensure that you are providing the best possible electrical services.